I was 14 years old when I discovered a secret that threatened to shatter my family. My mom was cheating on my dad, and I found out in the most unexpected way. One afternoon, my younger brother decided to charge an old phone of mine. Curious, I thought it would be fun to read old text messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I remembered that my mom's phone was synced to my old phone, so I opened the Messages app, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. However, I noticed two suspicious conversations with two different men. The first man sent bizarre texts like, "I miss your skin," and "Am I on block?" My mom didn't reply to any of his messages, which was somewhat comforting. But the second man was different. My mom and he had exchanged over 500 texts, and their conversation was explicit. Inappropriate pictures, videos, and texts were shared between them. I was horrified. I dug deeper, looking through the recently deleted and hidden tabs on the Photos app. What I found was deeply unsettling. Explicit photos of my mom and a picture of a prescription for HIV medication. I took photos of everything and stored them on my personal computer in case they were ever erased. As I continued my investigation, I discovered several dating apps on my mom's phone, including one specifically for discreet meetups. This all started in April, and it seemed to have been going on for a while. I found all of this out 2 days ago, and I have no idea what to do. Even before discovering these things, I had a feeling something was off. My mom was going out a lot, and one day, she went to a nail appointment with a huge bag and didn't come back until 6 hours later, well past dinner time. The person I felt most sorry for was my dad. He had always provided a good life for us, working hard to support our family. My mom, on the other hand, didn't cook, drive, or spend time with my brother and me. And now, she was cheating on him? I loved my dad deeply, and I didn't know if I should or how to tell him. I needed advice, and fast. 2 more days passed, and I was no closer to a solution. Every time I saw my dad, I felt a pang of guilt. He didn't deserve this. I decided to talk to my best friend, Emily, about what I had discovered. We met at the park near our school. "Hey, Emily, I need to tell you something," I started, my voice trembling. "What's up?" she asked, sensing my distress. "I found out that my mom is cheating on my dad," I said, struggling to hold back tears. Emily's eyes widened. "What? How did you find out?" I explained everything to her: the old phone, the messages, the photos, and the dating apps. "Wow, that's a lot to handle," Emily said, shaking her head. "You have to tell your dad." "But how? What if he doesn't believe me? What if it destroys our family?" I asked, my voice breaking. "He deserves to know the truth." "It's not fair to him," Emily said firmly. I knew she was right. That night, I mustered up the courage to talk to my dad. I waited until my mom went to bed. My dad was in his study, working on some documents. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Sure, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" he replied, looking up from his work. I took a deep breath and started to explain everything. I showed him the messages, the photos, and the dating apps. My dad's face went pale as he realized the gravity of the situation. "I had no idea," he said quietly. "Thank you for telling me." We sat in silence for a few moments, both of us processing what this meant for our family. The next day, my dad decided to confront my mom. He wanted to do it when my brother and I were at school, so we wouldn't be around for the inevitable fallout. I was nervous all day, unable to focus on my classes. When I got home, the atmosphere was tense. My mom was in the living room, crying. My dad was in the kitchen, staring out the window. I went to my room, trying to stay out of the way. A few minutes later, my dad came in and sat on the edge of my bed. "I confronted your mom," he said. "She admitted everything. What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We're going to try to work things out," he said, surprising me. But things are going to be different for a while. The days that followed were difficult. My parents were trying to rebuild their relationship, but it was clear that things would never be the same. My mom apologized to my brother and me, trying to explain her actions. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but I tried to understand. Life slowly started to settle into a new normal. My mom made an effort to be more involved in our lives. She started cooking dinner, driving us to school, and spending time with us. My dad was still hurt, but he was trying to move forward. Months passed, and our family dynamics shifted. My parents attended counseling, and my mom worked hard to regain our trust. But the tension between my parents was palpable, and their arguments became more frequent. My brother and I tried to stay out of it, but it was impossible to ignore the constant fighting. One night, I overheard my parents arguing in the living room. My mom was crying, and my dad's voice was filled with anger and pain. "I can't believe you did this to us," my dad yelled. "How could you betray our family like this?" "I made a mistake," my mom sobbed. "I'm trying to make things right." "Some mistakes can't be fixed," my dad replied, his voice breaking. The breaking point came when my dad found out that my mom had resumed her affair with one of the men. He had discovered more messages on her phone, and this time, he was done trying to make things work. My parents decided to separate. The day my dad moved out was one of the hardest days of my life. He packed his things and left without saying much. My mom was a wreck, crying and begging him to stay, but he was resolute. My brother and I tried to adjust to our new reality. We split our time between our parents, but it was clear that the damage had been done. Our family was broken, and there was no going back. The months following my parents' separation were filled with uncertainty and pain. My mom struggled to keep things together, and my dad distanced himself from us. The once close-knit family we had was gone, replaced by a fractured and strained relationship. I tried to focus on school and my friends, but the weight of what had happened was always on my mind. I resented my mom for what she had done, and my relationship with her deteriorated. My dad became a shadow of his former self, and I could see the toll it was taking on him. The events of that year forced me to grow up too fast. I became more independent, taking on responsibilities that my parents could no longer handle. My brother and I leaned on each other for support, trying to make sense of our new reality. Looking back, I realized that discovering my mom's affair had irrevocably changed our lives. It was a harsh lesson in the fragility of trust and the consequences of betrayal. Our family was never the same, and the scars of that time remained with us. As I entered adulthood, I carried the weight of my family's past with me. It shaped who I was and how I viewed relationships. Trust became something that was hard to give, and I struggled with the fear of betrayal. My parents eventually moved on with their lives. My mom found someone new, and my dad tried to rebuild his life. But the pain of what had happened never fully went away. It was a reminder of how quickly things could fall apart and how difficult it was to put the pieces back together. In the end, our story didn't have a happy ending. It was a messy, painful journey that left us all changed. But it was also a reminder of the strength it took to survive and the importance of honesty, even when it hurt the most.